Are you craving a trip on Space Mountain? Well, we've got the next best thing. Welcome to Disney Coast to Coast.
Hey folks, and welcome to Disney Coast to Coast, the ultimate unofficial Disney fan podcast. I'm Jeff DePauli, and in today's House of Mouse headlines, we got some news about Fox film reboots, plus a new character created specifically for the parks is headed to Disney California Adventure. That and so much more, so let's get to it.
Hear the latest news from the Walt Disney Company in today's House of Mouse headlines.
This past week, the Walt Disney Company had its third quarter earnings conference call, revealing a bunch of information about the state of the company and some new things we should expect. Part of the discussion was the lower than expected attendance in the parks, especially considering the opening of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge in Disneyland Park. According to Disney CEO Bob Iger, attendance may be down, but park profits are up. That's good news for the Walt Disney Company, but not so good news for your wallets. Part of this is because prices for tickets, merch, and food have all gone up, but another big part of this is because the parks have seen a decrease in annual pass holder attendance due to blockout dates, which means the folks visiting the parks are not as frequent visitors and therefore more likely to purchase souvenirs and spend more money. Honestly, this sounds like a good scenario for Disney. The overcrowding problem was solved, but money was up. It'll be interesting to see what happens once those blockouts are lifted. I'm also really curious as to whether or not the number of annual pass holders overall have decreased since the last price hike. The discussion of Fox movies was also mentioned during the conference call, admitting that the studio's earnings have been disappointing, but that there are several franchises under the Fox umbrella that Disney is interested in rebooting and/or continuing. Among them are Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Cheaper by the Dozen, Night at the Museum, Home Alone, and Planet of the Apes. I have a few thoughts about some of these titles. First, I feel like there's some serious potential for a Night at the Museum dinosaur tie-in at Disney's Animal Kingdom. It would be interesting to see the attraction rethemed so that instead of going back in time, a dinosaur museum came to life. Just an idea. As far as Planet of the Apes are concerned, I'm happy to hear that this latest reboot will continue. I'm actually quite a fan of these films, even though it's a genre that isn't typically of interest to me. There's something about the Planet of the Apes that excites me, though. And once again, Disney's Animal Kingdom seems like the perfect place to have an exciting e-ticket attraction based around this franchise. Do I want Fox properties in the parks? No, not really. But it's gonna happen, so why not choose ones that would actually make sense? Sure, the apes at Disney's Animal Kingdom don't currently talk, at least not in English, but they could. And finally, don't touch Home Alone. It's one of the most perfect Christmas movies out there. Heck, I'll go out on a limb and say it's one of the most perfect movies out there. Just put the original on Disney Plus and leave Home Alone alone. Speaking of Disney Plus, it was mentioned at the meeting that there will be a Disney Plus plus Hulu and ESPN Plus bundle package for the low price of $13 per month. This bundle will include the Hulu version that shows advertisements, but hey, overall, it sounds like a pretty good deal. It looks like Netflix has some serious competition coming its way on November 12th. It's not often that a Disney park closes its doors, but this past Saturday on August 10th, 2019, Shanghai Disneyland announced that it would not open due to an expected typhoon in the area. It's never fun to hear news like this if you're on a vacation, but guest safety is rightfully so the number one priority. This is being recorded before that date, so hopefully everyone was safe at Shanghai Disneyland and beyond during the typhoon. Remember when the Disney parks were full of original characters created specifically for the parks? Characters like Figment, the Country Bears, Sunny Eclipse, and so many more beloved characters. It's not as common practice for this to happen anymore, but I'm excited to share the news that it is happening this Halloween season at Disney California Adventure. The new Halloween World of Color show entitled Villainous will feature an original female child named Shelley Marie. Instead of idolizing the Disney princesses like most girls her age, Shelley Marie looks up to the Disney villains, including Maleficent, the Evil Queen, and Dr. Facilier. This new character was designed by beloved Disney animator Eric Goldberg, who is responsible for bringing the genie to life and so many more. Shelley Marie, whose name is in reference to the Frankenstein author Mary Shelley, has a very Tim Burton-esque feel to her. As a reminder, this new Halloween World of Color show is slated to run only during the special ticketed event Oogie Boogie Bash this Halloween season. Speaking of Halloween, if you've never seen Hocus Pocus before or just want to see it again and again and again, you'll have more chances than ever before to see it on Freeform TV. Freeform has announced that they'll be airing the Halloween movie classic 27 times during the month of October. In addition, due to the success of last year's Hocus Pocus 25th Anniversary Halloween Bash, Freeform will be shooting an all-new Halloween Bash for this year, celebrating Halloween's biggest pop culture moments. I never had as much fun in a cemetery as I did at last year's Hocus Pocus Bash, so hopefully this new special will be just as enjoyable. I'm happy to see that Freeform's 31 Nights of Halloween is going strong. If you're a fan of the Goldbergs on ABC, you'll be happy to hear that they are headed to Disneyland on the season premiere on September 25th. It sounds like this episode of the Goldbergs may end up needing the primetime at the parks treatment here on DCTC, but to be fair, I'm not sure whether or not they'll ever make it to the park. If you're familiar with the Goldbergs, most, if not all, episodes are themed around something 80s. This time, the episode will be based around the hit National Lampoon Vacation movie from the 1980s. The episode will bring in some of the film's stars, and if it's anything like the Griswolds' trip to Wally World, most of the episode will be about the road trip more so than their time at the park. But we'll all find out on September 25th. I just hope Mr. Goldberg doesn't beat the crap out of Mickey Mouse the same way that Mr. Griswold did Marty Moose. You may remember that last year on ABC there was discussion of a Little Mermaid live event that was ultimately cancelled. Well, it looks like this idea has resurfaced because it's been announced that Auli'i Cravalho, who Disney fans know as the voice of Moana, will be getting back into the ocean, but this time as Ariel. Queen Latifah will be playing Ursula, and Shaggy, yes, it wasn't me, Shaggy, will be performing the voice of Sebastian. The Wonderful World of Disney presents The Little Mermaid Live, featuring a mix of live action, animation, and puppetry, will air November 5th to mark the classic Disney animated feature's 30th anniversary. In addition to celebrating the film, it has been said that music from the Broadway musical will also be part of this live performance and original film hybrid production. With Aladdin and The Lion King blowing up at the box office, I'm sure it comes as no surprise to hear that Disney is adding more animated to live-action movies into development. According to the website We Got This Covered, the latest one in development is The Great Mouse Detective. Honestly, this is the kind of movie I'm interested in seeing them remake. The Great Mouse Detective isn't as beloved as some of the other live-action films they've been doing, but that also means that the remake wouldn't be as scrutinized as some of the bigger hits. I feel like it would allow them to make some new and creative choices without upsetting the fans. If this one does end up truly happening, I'd be curious to check it out. I'm sure for a lot of people, it would be their introduction to The Great Mouse Detective and help breathe some new life into this often forgotten film. Now let's get to this week's Twitter poll. This past Friday, we celebrated the 50th anniversary of the original Haunted Mansion attraction in Disneyland Park. So in the Twitter poll, I asked you folks, of the following choices, which is your favorite room in the Haunted Mansion? Your options were the Stretching Room, Madame Leota's, the Ballroom, or the Graveyard. In last place, with only 6% of the votes, was Madame Leota's, followed by the Stretching Room with 21% of the votes, then the Graveyard with 35% of the votes, and the winner is the Grand Ballroom with 38% of the votes. Do you agree with the results of this Twitter poll? Make your voice heard by following Dizney CTC on Twitter and taking part in the Twitter poll every week. That's DIZNEY CTC on Twitter. If you love listening to this podcast, you've probably thought about starting one of your very own. But if you're not sure where to start, head on over to youcanpodcastnow.net to get some free information on how to get started. That's youcanpodcastnow.net. This episode of Disney Coast to Coast was produced by Philip Elke, who has supported the show through Patreon. If you'd like to become a DCTC producer or gain other rewards, including early access to episodes, live stream Q&As, behind-the-scenes access, and more, information can be found at patreon.com/DisneyCTC. That's patreon.com/DIZNEYCTC. Other than that, folks, have a magical day. Bye!
Thanks for listening to Disney Coast to Coast. Have a magical day.
Disney Coast to Coast is produced and hosted by Jeff DePauli. Learn more about the podcast and become a supporter at DisneyCoastToCoast.com.